Hey girl, hey, happy Monday. I cannot believe it is Monday again already. But I'm excited to be here. It's my favorite day of the week. And I today get to talk to my favorite person as the Maven for this week's Maven Monday. So if you don't know me, my name's Olivia Thomas. I'm the founder of Wintentional Development Co. and the Busy Girls Brunch, helping you go from hustling to wholeness through brand and business strategy, making sure that you are truly an uninterrupted masterpiece, putting down all of those professional lies and telling the truth and bringing in your dream clients. So, yeah, you get to meet one of my dreams right now. So, I'm bringing to the stage my husband, my best friend, my partner in crime, classic reinvention. He is a marketing genius and I think one of the most interesting people I have ever met because he's very perceptive and just kind of his ideas about life and possibilities are always just so inspiring to me. So I want to bring him here to talk to you. So welcome to the stage. Hi.
Hello. I wanted to be
Did you?
behind her in the room. I didn't do that. Did you do that?
I didn't do that.
Oh, I don't know why that happened.
That's incredible.
Confetti.
I love it. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it would have been awesome if you were behind me. We're still at the office kind of late at night, guys, and originally this was supposed to be me going live by myself, but because we were still here, I figured it would be really cool to actually talk to you. Just kind of because of the nature of what you do. I wanted to talk about competitive advantages and building on that. But before we even get into that, feel free to introduce yourself. Who are you?
Yeah, I'm classic. Not by birth, though. I was an artist many years ago, and then got into the corporate space and was like, let's make people uncomfortable and make everybody still call me classic. Uh, so yeah, I do content marketing. It began as just being a film and theater kid, wanting to produce shorts and things, and big fan of sketch comedy and whatnot. And so, at the same time, we did a lot of market research work, working for a place called Schlesinger. So I understood psychographics, demographics. I literally booked people for focus groups. And so I got to see what worked, what didn't work, how people reacted to different things. And it was no different than what we were doing with the film and theater. And so started to understand product placement just by, I feel like, sheer accident because we live in Philly. Rocky might be one of the greatest long form pieces of like promotional content ever, where like the city was the product, and since then it's made probably more than $1 billion just because of this fictional character telling a story. And so it's like, well,
Mhm.
how does that work on a short form end? And so started doing media for companies just because companies that I liked, which turned into those companies doubling back, like, hey, how can you work for us? And it's like, oh wait, this seems to be like a legit pathway. And so now we're just in the startup tech space, pretty heavy, helping people explain their message, being the face of different things, while also advising creatively and in regards to the marketing efforts.
Okay, awesome. Um, I don't know. Whenever I hear you tell it, it's like it always sounds so happenstance. Um, like you just kind of fell into, like you just kind of fell into this thing. And I mean, I guess watching from the outside, slash kind of from the inside, it did. I don't know. It was such a growing journey. Can you kind of talk about that? Because I know sometimes you start somewhere and then the thing you start as is not where you end up, and just kind of being like open to, well, I didn't even mean to go into this, but even what you call the beautiful unknown, right? Like, what does that look like? The journey from point A to point B.
Yeah, because none of this is planned. I wanted to be a film star, and and who's to say I'm not now? But I'm a big believer in being attached to the goal versus the journey. I feel like a lot of people think that they are like, I have this goal and that's what it is by any means necessary. but don't realize that what they're really caught up in is the path in which to get to that goal. That's what we don't get to decide. We can have this
Mm,
like this want, but as far as like how the journey that is going to take to get there, that's not really up to us. It's just up to us to keep moving forward with whatever information we're giving and whatever, variables present themselves. So even the concept of the beautiful unknown, that's like I don't know what's to come. I can plan all I want, but I really don't know what's to come. What I can do is prepare myself to take advantage of that blessing, whatever it is. So, understanding myself, understanding my value, I know what I'm not going to take. I know what I'm not going to limit myself to. And that first and foremost establishes foundation because people know how to deal with me. There is a self weeding out process because you can't bring a certain thing to me because I've already dictated that's not who I am. That's not what I do. That's not what I'll accept. And so from there, now I don't have to worry about the wrong people being around. I can just continue to move forward and just slowly but surely become aligned with all these different things that begin to present themselves because I've been presenting myself. Like, whatever energy you send out to the universe, that's what comes back. And so I'm
mm,
very intentional about the messages that I put out, the way I move, because I really want people to understand who I am. Because everybody's always going to try to dictate a value to you based off of what they understand. It's not your fault that they don't get you. You can't plan for something you never experienced, and we are all going to be ignorant to the day that we die in some way, shape, or form. That's why there's a constant evolution, there's a constant growth. And as long as you keep exposing yourself to new and uncomfortable things, the more you can that growth mindset just begins to expand more and more, and you just keep listening, you keep applying, you keep refining, and you get to the point where everything that you were looking for starts to present itself, even if you can't recognize it. But if it presented itself, then that's what you were looking for, and so you just kind of go into it.
I love it. I love it. So you said something that kind of resonated with me. Just staying the path until alignment actually happens. I think that's actually a really important thing to think about in terms of competitive advantage, like actual alignment, because there's no competition when there's alignment, right? Like if you are actually in the right place, doing the right thing for the right people, um, then it's just right, right?
Yeah,
So I know my definition of competitive advantage. How would you define it?
we'll define it as something unique to you, some sort of proprietary thing that you have going on that not everybody can access or at least not access it in the frequency that you can. Like this, it's like like we have the guy that's actually the engineering specialist, so we have an access to a certain resource that makes a certain thing, and we can get it at a better deal than anybody else. Like anything that kind of like just puts you ahead of the pack in any way, shape, or form. So
Mm,
like for me, it's the media side, and so when it comes to going up against other people that may be content managers, as
mhm,
well is the fact that I can produce the work. It's not like I just develop it, but I can actually be it because of the film and theater background. So I can understand what it is that you're trying to do. And then I can go become it in a way unlike anybody else because I am performance based. And so it ends up becoming this thing that like a lot of people can't beat me at because they're hiding behind their work and I am the work. So you, you're going to see me more, and so you can actually attribute that value to me when like the likes go up or more people are hitting the link to learn more about your product or your service. It's like, man, that is directly attributed to him, and so that becomes my
mhm,
competitive advantage. And that's what you're trying to do more than anything, is like, how can you create a thing that people after a while literally have to come to you for, or come to your company for, or this is a service we have to get because it's uh it's never this good. Like it's like your favorite diner. Like, why
yeah.
is it your favorite diner? Probably because how that person treated you, the way they made that sandwich like nobody else does. It's like I'm only coming here for this. They have a competitive advantage when it comes to me. And so I feel like you're trying to do that at scale when you have a company.
I get that, and I mean, so it sounds like, the first thing that you really have to define is your competency, right? Like, the thing that you do better than anybody else, that might even be the thing that is a value add, a culture add, even to your industry in general. Like, it's not just videos, it's not just video production, it's not just any one part of this thing. It's streamlining the process through one person. So that's the thing that you offer that other people can't necessarily offer, because that's your competency. Like, you're completely like competent in that thing, so other people can't necessarily do that. So how do you suggest people release themselves to their competency? Because I know, like even a conversation that you and I tend to have is like, even kind of coming into the understanding that, oh wait, I am really good in this way, and becoming comfortable with the fact that like you're good in a certain way, even though it's not the norm for what's expected or understood within the industry, or within, what other people are even like asking for, right? So like, how do you even release yourself and become comfortable with the fact that you are competent in a way that other people aren't? Which is a funny question, because I feel like you should be like comfortable with the fact that you're good at something. But
Yeah.
oddly enough, like when you're really good, sometimes it almost feels like a threat to the norm, to other people, to just life in general.
Yeah. Yeah. So what? That's I feel like that's the like the foundation of it. It's like someone else's insecurities has nothing to do with you and your competencies. And so again, it just comes back to other people trying to dictate your value. It's mainly because they don't understand it, or they do understand how much of a threat it is. And so it's all bad intentioned anyway. And so you just want to focus on, if you're getting this calling, I mean, we talk about this all the time. If you're getting this calling, you got the calling. Nobody else got the calling.
Mm,
And so you're supposed to move on that. And so the idea of like you can't move because someone else didn't give you the okay to move, it's a rough one to kind of like comprehend on my side, because that person or that series of people has nothing to do with you. I believe it's
mm,
two different kinds of comfort. There's individual comfort and there's group comfort. We put too much emphasis on group comfort to the point where we'll suppress who we are and what we represent, and what speaks to us, because we don't want to rock the boat of a group. Well, how about maybe that's just the wrong group? Like, we get caught up in, like, we come up in these groups and these friends and this family and yada yada, and it has to be a certain way. And no, it actually doesn't. You should only be, in regards to your competencies, you should only be around people that understand it and that support it, no matter who that is.
mm,
Right product, wrong
mm,
audience, and you just keep going until you eventually find the right audience for it, because there's an audience for anything. If you are trying to do something and somebody's like, nah, that ain't it, it's like, nah, that ain't it for you. That's cool, you can have that opinion, just go find the person that is who it is for, because all audiences are just some sort of patchwork design of ourselves. Like, when you look into an audience, you just see a lot of people that are similar to you. And
mm.
that's what the focus is. You're just trying to find more people that are like you, which you won't do if you're not acknowledging who you are. So you're moving around when you're in that falsehood. You're walking around searching for people that match that. So of course the whole thing doesn't make sense. It doesn't work, and it's like not really speaking to your strengths, because you're not supposed to be doing this around these people. And on top of,
Mm,
you're not supposed to be doing that, period. Like, that's not who you are. And
yeah.
so you have to take that time out to understand like those things that make you tick, that make you the unique, genuine rock star you are. And you need to lean into that and only focus on the folks that are leaning into it with you and are on the similar frequencies. Anything outside of that is a waste of your time. And so, and even complain about it is like kind of weird, because you don't have to do that.
Okay. So there's a conversation we often have about building your world, right? And I feel like that's kind of what you're saying right now, right? Where if you don't take the time to build your world, then it's impossible to attract people into something that's not actually defined. So what questions do you ask in order to even start moving into the reality of who you are, the truth of who you are, right? Like, what do you even say to yourself to say, like, to start breaking down the ideas that other people have of you for yourself?
What do I want? Like it always
Mm.
comes back to that. Yeah, it's like, ugh, yeah. What do you want? What do I want? Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. What do I want to accomplish? What impact am I looking to have on the world? And then from there, because the term is like build your own world, teach people how to live in it. You're kind of working
Mm.
backwards. You're kind of writing out this perfect story, this perfect picture of like if you had every resource, if you had no obstruction, what would it look like? What would you do? That's now your big goal. That's your shooting for the moon. Hopefully you land among the stars. But you got to give
Mm.
yourself that big target that you can kind of work back from. Now that you have it,
Mm.
where am I right now in relationship to that? What do I have access to? What do I need to work on? What do I need to refine? Who do I need to get around? What are those steps? Who has the information? Who's accomplished what it is that I'm looking to accomplish? Because we're not reinventing anything. We're just like constantly trying to refine some version of something. Like you've come across something that probably wasn't for you, but felt like it should be, and so you started to build something. Like
Mm.
a company is like a solution for a problem that you have technically initially, and then it's like I bet other people have this problem, and that's your scale. And so it's thinking about that, like what is this problem you want to solve, how do you want to solve it, like how far do you want to go with it, really having that understanding of those wants, and then just starting to work towards it, because now you have a north star. Now you know what your roadmap should be, and you can start finding those things that you can drop in there, but also is letting you know what you shouldn't be doing, because if you're doing something and it doesn't line with that goal and doesn't line with this path, then now you can actually hold yourself accountable. In a sense, I
Mm.
feel like a lot of people try to avoid that because it's easier to just act like you don't know, because then people can feel sorry for you. It's a lot of sympathy, um, versus like, because it's a lot of work to walk the path, because a lot of that is going to be
Mm.
alone. Nobody's
Yeah.
inside your head. They do not understand it. They do not see it the way that you see it. But that is not enough reason to not do it. So paint that picture and start to walk towards it.
I actually love that you said that a lot of it is actually alone, because no one else lives in your head. And I think that's something that we kind of have to come to grips with when we're building something or when we're doing something, when we're in relationship, like any number of things. Like as much as we seek the interdependence of community and growing with people, um, there still has to be some internal stability that we have that keeps us grounded and sane and moving forward toward the things that we actually believe in, right? So, I mean, for me, the way that I walk through the process with clients is by defining your mission, vision, and values, right? So, is there kind of a framework that you use where it's like I have to define A, B, and C, and I know you just said what do you want? Um, so if that's the answer, that's the answer. But you know, out of curiosity, is there something where you're like, oh, you know what, do this, and then that's kind of what you're going to move toward within your own, independent work through in your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, it begins with that perfect picture, because then from there I know what I'm supposed to be going after that kind of like fits within that criteria. So it's like I have the goal of, one day I want to work for a Fortune 500 tech company. I probably shouldn't be looking for projects with like a burger stand. It's like, yeah, even though it could be like quick money or something like that, but like, how does it actually help me in the long run? Like, like, I need to
Yeah,
be able to amplify this opportunity. And so for
yeah,
me, it's like, well, I'm like how I did in the beginning. Well, I'm just going to start talking about tech companies until one of them swoops around and says, hey, I would like to work with you. And now, like that, I now have my first piece of experience working for a tech company, and now I can build on that because I can use them as a reference. But then also I can utilize the money, which is sometimes a lot more than you would at any other type of company, and I can reinvest into more exposure. So it's like creating those
Mhm.
out, like it's not good if it's only enough just for the moment. Like it has to create other forms of value, both financially and like opportunistic. Because we're playing a ladder climbing game, and so if each move isn't like a step up the ladder, then what are you actually
Mhm.
doing? Like we
Yeah.
don't want to go down and left to right, you're getting off the ladder. So like the focus is going up and going forward. So that's why it's important to have that large scale idea of what it is that you want, so you can constantly stay within that and kind of
Yeah.
phase up from there.
I love that. It's not good if it's only enough for the moment. That's a big deal. I think a lot of times when people are just starting businesses, they're kind of thinking about, again, in like the hustle period of the business, you're really just thinking about survival as opposed to thriving. So it's like, well, what can I have to keep me for today as opposed to what can I have that I can build on for tomorrow?
We
Yeah.
do a lot of short-term thinking at times because of the rush of things and that survivalist thinking and feeling like things are going to run out and we have to hold on to. But like I can't remember a seed that I put into the ground to turn into an orange tree tomorrow. And so it's funny how like we'll have these understandings with other things that grow, but not for ourselves. Like the same things apply. We are living organisms just like anything else. It takes time. It takes the right fuel. It takes the right exposure to sunlight, the right amount of watering, the right amount of food, the right amount of talking to, the right amount of just about everything. But the same thing applies to a growing person. And so if you're not like taking that time out to like really think about your future, because even putting together that grand idea, that's considering your future. That's not something that's going to
Mm.
happen tomorrow. That's like for me, it's like a 12-year plan that I'm working on. I'm in the middle of year one of a restart on that same plan that we had before. It's like that constant like growth and evolution. And who's to say that like the plan's going to be the same 5 months from now? It's going to be a constant refinement. Like you're building off of your current understanding. That's why you
Yep.
want to keep getting exposure, because you might not actually be thinking big enough. You might not actually be around the right folks. But if you're starting to put that energy out there, then a lot of those doors are beginning to open so you can walk in and kind of be surprised by the possibilities. Like trying to create a pipeline of possibilities. You want to be surprised at every phase to the point where like it makes your idea get even bigger. Because yeah, we just tend to think too small at times. And man, is infinite possibilities for the amount of wealth that we could generate out here, especially as the creative individuals we are. As Come on, man. As Black people, our competitive advantage is we think outside the box. We don't know any better. We turn, water into wine. We're like constant MacGyvers when it comes to life, and so just showing up is actually going to be a win because we're constantly going to stand out. And if you know your stuff as well, then you can beat just about anybody that's coming in that only knows the information. The goal is to create an experience
Yeah.
that people keep remembering and keep wanting to revisit, and keep creating opportunities for you to do your thing, and then you just keep growing, adding to it, and making that experience become even more grander.
I So you said something that was interesting. You said that I don't remember exactly how you said it, so I'm going to paraphrase. You said that with each experience, we should be kind of experiencing something that's a little bit beyond our reach, right? So that our idea of the stratosphere then expands. So to be able to do that, you have to have a certain level of both like confidence and humility to say like I'm going to show up, I'm going to go, I'm going to get stuff done because I trust that I'm actually going to show up and get stuff done. Confidence. And then humility, I don't know everything. I have to learn this new thing that is going to take me into a new place, and I am like safe to learn it. There's no judgment, there's no shade, there's no shame in actually putting myself in this vulnerable position of receiving new information that, when I'm exercising, it might even make me look a little bit dumb for a little bit. Like, how do you suggest that people kind of build their confidence to be vulnerable and actually engage these new places and industries and things, right? Because one of the things that I'm always thinking about is like, right product, wrong audience. So sometimes the issue that we're having with creating a competitive advantage is that we almost refuse to go over the hill, because over the hill into that other industry, into that other area where people actually need what it is that we do is unfamiliar, right? Because it's unfamiliar territory and because vulnerability is something that's like, it's dangerous. Um, there's fear for a lot of people. There's fear. And I mean, the joke that we've kind of had is like, you're the one that we send over the hill, and you turn around and like tell everybody it's safe to come, right? So, like, what does it look like to become that person for someone who isn't that person, so that they can be willing to even go into those places where their ideas are welcome?
I encourage everyone to take an improv class. Uh, Improv is amazing. So the benefit for me is I'm a performer, so it's easy to transition. But it wasn't always that way. I had to like build this character and like utilize it to like, whenever I'm in a room, what would classic do, and then start doing that, and so started becoming more and more confident. But something that like helped big time was theater. And so improv is great. I remember the first time doing improv, and I was like, man, this is a great life skill. And I just started inviting people, period, that didn't even do theater. Um, just because, hey, man, this is a good way to open yourself up. Because if you can confidently say something stupid, you can say something that you really know, like amazing. And that's what it is more than
Yeah.
anything. It's like building that confidence to just like react. A lot of people stop themselves from reacting. So like because of that lack of confidence, that's you not walking over the hill. Even though the hill's right there, you're not going to walk over it. You don't know to
Yeah.
react. Improv kind of forces you to, because somebody throws something at you, you got to throw something right back. Doesn't care if it's right or wrong. You just got to throw something right back, and you got to believe it when you throw it back. And you start to internalize that over time, where now it becomes a habit. You're in a meeting, somebody throws something at you, you throw something right back because you're like ready and you're used to throwing it back. And it's like, oh man, I knew that answer. And kind of then you kind of look back on it more like, I kind of always knew that answer. I just never jumped forward with it. And that was the first time I felt comfortable jumping forward with it. And so yeah, things like improv I think are awesome, because then as you take those lessons and different things and you start going home, you can start to study yourself. I feel like a lot of people don't really watch themselves in the mirror. Like, yeah, you do the getting ready, but like, how much do you watch yourself talk? How much do you ask yourself questions and then respond to the questions, just to see how your body reacts to that type of questioning? Um,
Mm.
because the more you see yourself, like the more you can correct yourself. Like if a certain type of question comes through, you don't realize that you slump or you sound like you're not really into it. You can work on that because you have been practicing beforehand. So just a lot of it's all a performance. Business is a performance. Like it's networking is a performance. It's all trying to like dig and pull something out that may not be there. But
Mm.
that confidence is a difference. Not everybody knows everything. Not everybody's this big old genius. The majority of folks are just more confident than others. Like whether they know it or not, you don't know they don't know it because of how they carry themselves. Which is also the
Yeah.
beautiful part about theater. They say that like you can mess up, just don't let the audience know you messed up. Like keep going. Like it's been tons of times where like you miss a whole scene, everybody's still laughing. Cool. Because I kept it going. Like I'm not gonna like the goal is not to alert you to the fact that I am unprepared. That's confidence. Confidence is no matter what, I'm ready. And then after a while, people start to believe that. You start to instill confidence in others. Now they want to throw more stuff at you because if anybody can do it, that person can do it. And a lot of people kind of climb that way, like figuring it out as they go. They say
Yeah.
it's like running a business or a startup, whatnot, is like building a boat while you're in the water. And it's like, heck yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. In like really crazy waves at that. Um,
Do you
yeah.
want to make it to the other side though?
Mm.
Because a lot of people just capsize. It's
Mm,
like, but no, you gotta keep building. You gotta keep paddling. It's not over till it's over. It's not over till you
yeah,
say it's over. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. You can get no's, you can get closed doors, but there is no, like, you didn't lose until you quit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I concur. I say that all the time. Yeah. So it's funny when I was kind of like writing out this outline for this conversation earlier. I wasn't thinking about us talking. Um, I was thinking about me just talking about the experiences and what it looks like to create distinction, separation between yourself and other people within your industry, and then also learning how to compete with yourself, right? Because I think one of the biggest competitive advantages that we can have is almost in a way recognizing that we don't have any competition,
Yeah,
and that we are in competition with ourselves and just becoming like better every day at the thing that we have determined is our thing, right? So this is going to kind of turn into two questions. So on one hand, like how do you measure your better every day, right? Like how are you competing with yourself and how do you score that? Um, and I will ask the next question after you answer that one because the other one's kind of complicated.
yeah. Man, waking up is a win. Like that is my. Did you get up to fight? All right, cool. That's a score right there. And anything else after that is sort of like icing on the cake because it doesn't matter how bad things get. Like, did you keep going?
Mm,
And I definitely pat myself on the back while shrugging and sighing. Everything I'm going through and have been through, and so just having the energy to get up and keep going is the blessing.
mhm,
And I try not to overcomplicate things about like getting too into the details of like, well, this happened and this happened and this happened. A lot of things I like to kind of like surprise myself later when you look back and see it like, oh man, this was accomplished. And then that's sort of like the picking you up because you go through it thinking you're not doing enough. And then somebody's like, hey man, last week you crushed X, Y, and Z because you're just focused on showing up. You're not really paying attention to like a lot of those different things and doing the work. And so that's why it's also good to be around. That happens when you're around the right folks as well, because they know to highlight, encourage in all those different ways. Whether they know you're going through something or not, they just saw that you nailed something and they were appreciative
yeah,
of you doing that. And you don't know how much you actually need that at times to keep rocking and rolling. So that's actually my sort of like barometers. Like I woke up, so I have the ability to work, and so we're going to keep pushing. And then that sort of like validation from the people that I'm actually working for. If people aren't like
mm.
singing your praise, then you're probably not um, leaving the impression that you think you are.
Okay. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So kind of within the realm of people singing your praises, you are objectively a very smart person, right? You have been called a genius by some very interesting people. Um, and it's been kind of cool to see it happen. Over these last few years, but within the amount of time that we've known each other, right? There have been times when the conversation was a little less kind. And it's been more like, why are you doing that? No one's gonna want that. This is kind of ridiculous. Um, and I think that's kind of like if you what is it? Genius is shooting at the target that nobody else can see, right?
Yeah,
Or aiming
shooting
for the
for a
target
target
that
no
no
one
one
else
else
can
can
see.
see. Um, so And one of the things I used to tell you really early on was like you either have to hold tight and wait for the trends in the market to catch up, or you have to kind of meet everybody in the middle and just speak really heavily toward the benefits and not the features, right? Um, so how would you advise somebody who is exhibiting genius that is, I'm going to call it unrequited, right? Like at the moment people aren't necessarily reciprocating the idea that this is actually something that they can use or that they even understand. Um, like, what would you say to somebody who knows the thing that they are doing is the next thing, um, but the zeitgeist just hasn't really caught up yet?
I say that's when you start building your own world. Like you probably need to be the one that is directing them towards it versus like trying to get them to buy into it. You can't.
Mm,
People will not invest in something that they do not understand. And so that's why you have to paint the picture. Like earlier on, being a filmmaker, they said that like if you wanted to sell a script, then you should make a short film because you can't leave it up to these money men, these businessmen to kind of like see the imagination that you've kind of like drawn up on the script. They only see dollars and cents. But if you shoot a piece of it and you show them that this is what I'm thinking, and you kind of like visually immerse them in it, I can better understand
mm,
it. I can better see it. That's why I started like doing the work before people paid me, just targeting companies that I would love to work with, that I was super psyched about, highlight them, because now I am, instead of me saying, "Hey, I could do this for you," I just showed you, and not only did I show you, you get to see how other people react to it, which is really what you want. That's why you didn't want to pay for it initially because you didn't understand how people would engage with it and how that would translate into money, so you can see that solid return on investment. Well,
mm.
here I just took your message and I turned it into something that people cared about, and then some of them even clicked to discover more. So now we got click through. Creativity is really hard to gauge it unless you attach it to something tangible. And so that genius is creativity. What are you attaching it to so that people can understand through a lens that they do? So like even when you were saying like, are you meeting them where they are, kind of like helping them cross over? It was funny. I was like, it's almost like being at the chasm and kind of like laying down and then letting people kind of
Yep.
walk over you. Like you have to you have to paint it for them, because they just don't
Mm,
know. Especially if you're really early. The people that are really early, sitting around waiting for other folks to do it, it's probably still not going to work out because now you're betting on if people cross the chasm, which they may not
yeah.
do. And so you have to just repurpose that genius. You have to repurpose that messaging and kind of like get people, to understand it through something that they will understand it as. That's why even when I'm doing my content, it's like, because we're talking about startups, this stuff is like can be like super complex at times. But I
Mm,
grew up on Channel 12. I'm a PBS kid, so it's like I know about like
yeah.
what is that common thread between something that maybe you do know? What's that analogy that I can create based around something that you do know? So now it's like, aha, like if I can get a aha moment, like you have crossed. And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful part about genius is like if you wanted to, sometimes you get stubborn, you get upset because people don't get it, but you have to understand that like they're not you, and they're really not you if you're like on a spectrum on a high level like that, kind of like viewing patterns differently. And so you just have to
Mm,
find those different ways to dumb yourself down. I used to hate that term, but it's like super important to get people to understand what it is that you're trying to get them to understand, because that's the whole point of it. Like you want them to
mm,
be able to make a decision, but I have to
mm,
understand enough to make the decision that you want me to make. Otherwise, I'm gonna make the one that you don't want to make, which is maybe not right now, or
yeah.
yeah, I don't think that's for me. It's really just saying it because they genuinely don't know. So, what are you doing to to create an atmosphere for understanding?
Yeah, and I mean, I think even the concept of, like, dumbing it down is so interesting because who was it? I think it was, like, Myron Golden who was talking about, as adults, we talk to other adults to impress them. So we use this like high level language and we speak in a jargonistic kind of way where it's like, I know a bunch of things. That's amazing, right? But what we should really be doing is speaking to them like third graders, where it's like, look, this is a very simplistic understanding of what I'm going to do for you, how I'm going to get you from point A to point B. Um, can we do this together? Right? Because like we all kind of have this infatuation with the ivory towers, with like really high level knowledge and education, where it's like, if I know all of these things, if I can say these really big fancy words that are just like, I don't know, just they feel important, right? So there's a sense of like self importance that we kind of have when we're trying to communicate with other people what it is that we're doing and what we're bringing to the table. But it can't really be self important. It has to be important to them. Like,
Yeah.
if it's not important to them, they don't see the benefit. All we can ever talk about are the features and the technical language around what it is that we're doing. Then they can't even connect with it because they don't care. They're lay people. They're not people who have done the years of studying. They're not people who have read Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew, right? Like, they don't care. But
Yeah.
what they care
Yeah.
is about the benefit and the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. How are we going to create that straight line together?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, you can't plan for something you never experienced. And so if you're trying to introduce something, like, you have to, that first of all, that heavy jargon stuff sometimes pisses people off, especially if they don't get it. So now you just treat me like I'm stupid. Like,
Now you're
you may
embarrassing
not
people, and
realize
that's
it.
not nice.
Yeah, like, you have to read the room, um,
Mm,
like, get a good understanding of the competency of the room, and then you start to tone
mm,
accordingly, because you again, you have to meet them where they are. You're you're not buying your thing, so why present it in a way that you understand it? That's ridiculous. You have to, if
that's
this
so
room
good.
is full of people that are potential buyers, what do they need to know to buy? And you adjust
Yeah,
to that. So to even be like, I'm not dumbing it down, it's like, uh, you just did. Like, because this whole thing is dumb now. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, what are you now trying to prove? Because I thought the goal was to get sales. And
yeah,
so, and that was something I had to learn. I like I had somebody tell me years ago, like, man, like you're going to outsmart your audience, and why would they want to continue to be a part of this experience if they feel like it's something there where it's just like, I just can't keep up? Like, what's the point? It's not
yeah,
enjoyable at that
yeah,
point. And so, if you know that's the people you want, then you have to present it in a way that that's where that market research and all those different things come into play. Like, really diving in, what have they been fed up until this point? How have they responded? And how can I
mm,
create my version of that?
mm. So I love that you just said market research, because as you were speaking, excuse me, it made me think of the conversation we were having the other day about how sometimes market research can be a little bit skewed because of the way that the information is received, um, or how it's sought, right? Like, when we are doing market research, are we doing it in a way where the people actually feel free enough to tell us the truth, so that we can tune our marketing language and our offerings toward whatever is real for them? So, kind of coming from the market research background that you have, like, what are ways to get real information from people, so that as we are tuning our language, so that as we are trying to find the intersection between the benefits of what we're doing and the people who it will actually benefit?
Yeah, you have to do your own focus groups. You have to do your own A/B testing. You got to go get your own data. You can't rely on what somebody else did, because their variables are different. Like, you don't know who they are, what their background is, what their experience is making people respond in that manner. And so you have to go do
Mm,
your own. You have to set up the event. You have to put out the content. You have to do different versions of it. You have to see what people like. Which one kind of like gets the most hits, even if it's like, this one got 10, but this one only got two. It's like, all right, well, let's
mm,
try this again. Like, why did it get the 10 versus that one getting two? And you just start to lean into things more and more. Like, it always starts as this one big thing that gets refined over time as you become more and more efficient, because you're listening to the audience more and more, and you're getting bigger sample sizes, and That's why I always say align yourself with larger things, because in the beginning you don't have an audience.
Mhm.
And so like that's why I talked about companies. The company had an audience. And so if I can make this thing well enough to the point where they feel obligated to share, and I just kind of hacked you to the point where you're now sending this down to your audience and saying, "Hey man, thank you for this. This is amazing." Now your audience doesn't know who the heck I am. And so, but this person that we do know just said that this person's amazing. So now I want to go check
Mhm.
them out and see who they are and what it is that they do. And so that's what you're trying to create. And so that's why it's trying to find that balance of alignment and kind of like painting your own picture of like, this is who I am that you are now that you are here. This is what I'm doing now that you are here. And get to the point where like it just becomes more effortless because now I know what they want and I know how to give it to them in this unique way to me. In the beginning, you're just working through the presets. Like all you have
Mhm.
is I don't know what they want. Slowly but
Mhm.
surely, that audience is going to tell you, we really like
Yeah.
this, don't like that one too much. And it's going to be in the numbers, like how they engage it. And you just go to the boost from there. Like even when it comes to like paid ads and things like that, don't pay money up front. What's the thing that like
Yeah.
did well? Boost that. Like because they technically told you that they really like this one. So cool. Boost it to an audience similar to that audience that has engaged it. Who are those people? Where are they at? What is the focus? All right, cool. Let's like dial down on that. Seem to have like, yeah, we only got 10 hits. 5 of them were from Cleveland. The heck's going on in Cleveland? Who are they? Let me dive into them. What do they do? Are there any similarities there? Let me start to incorporate
Yeah.
that somehow. Because again, that's another example of going to where the people meeting the people where they are. Like you also have to
Mhm.
listen to the data. You have to not only show up and be where they are, you just gotta have to listen to the data once you do get there because people will engage. And don't be deterred by small numbers. Again, no one knows you in the beginning, but is the 20% rule. Like the 80-20, like 20% of the room is that's what you really want. And 9 times out of 10, that's who is in there. If you going from like a psychographic perspective, it doesn't matter how they look, where they're from. You same interest has no skin color. And so
Mhm.
it's just showing up, it's telling your story and seeing the people that gravitate towards it because they resonate, they're doing the same thing, they've thought about doing that, super interested, they like how you doing it, like you never know. And then that just continues to grow. It's like it's like performing. Like we did open mics and music and stuff back in the day. In the beginning, you might have like one person there. One person showed up, but you rock it like that room is filled because then that person's gonna leave like, hey man, I just popped into a bar to get a drink last night. I was kind of blown away by this random dude, man. I got his information. I saw that he's performing again next Friday. You guys want to go? Now it's 3 people at the event. He done brought 2. Those 2 people get blown away. Go tell more folks. They follow. They show up with more people. Now it's 10 people there. Like that's how it goes. You show up and you give your all, 100%, and you create opportunities to give your all in those unique ways. Like you don't want to be kind of like going into things where you kind of have to not be yourself because you're just going to get bad data. They're going to be responding to something that isn't real that you can't sustain. That's why it's important to
Yeah.
understand who you are, what it is that you want beforehand, so you can show up with that and tell that story and attract the people that want those same things.
I love it. I love it. I love it a lot. I love it a lot. I love the idea that it's okay to keep A/B testing. I think a lot of the times when we're starting something, um, the idea of testing it over and over again and experimenting almost feels like failure, right? Because so many people are they just have this desire to be right the first time and like for things to be perfect, but there's no such thing as perfection. Like all we can do is iterate over and over again, and like even when it's like perfect, it's never perfect.
Yeah. You just have to change that language. I don't think that's the failure part. That's just refinement. That's a lesson. Failure is when you quit. Like you didn't fail
Yeah.
until you gave up. Is if you're still there, if you're still showing up, how can you say you failed? Like you're back again. That person didn't get it. That opportunity wasn't it. You weren't ready yet. But I promise you, there was some positives to take away to kind of build on. And after a while, you realize you have more positives than negatives. That's because you reach that level of refinement to the point where now you got to expose to more and go start messing up again. So that way you can start refining again, and then now you're at the point where like I'm ready for the next level. Let me go climb this ladder and start messing up again. And just keep you need that. You need that. Like, how do you know to do what's right if you don't know what's wrong? Like
Mm,
nobody knows in the beginning. When we're figuring it out, we show up with a thing. It's like I remember this big investor that I wanted to align with. I reached out to put her onto another company that was like they did like wine tasting, and she was like, "I'm like 3 years sober," and I was like, "Oh crap!" Like this is just and it loved me. She loved me, and but in that moment, it was like, "Nah, you messed up with that one. You probably should have known that. You probably should have researched a little bit." So cool. I know not to bring anything like that to her again, and I probably got to wait a little bit longer before I can, present something else. But um, you need to go out there and make those mistakes because they make you better in the
yeah.
long run. Like versus like and make the mistakes early before like
Mm,
the repercussions are a lot larger. Like it's and make them after you've more after you develop more benefit of the doubt. Because if I really like you as a person, I really enjoy what you're doing, I can overlook certain things because
mm,
and it becomes like instead of a kick in the butt, it's like a holding of the hand. It's more
yeah.
guidance because I kind of want you to figure this out because you're the type of person that like needs to figure this out because you're going to serve on a much higher level. Like they have established that narrative in their own head because
Yeah.
of how you have shown up. So versus, oh no, man, like if he dies, he dies. Because that there is no benefit here, and we actually don't want to see this on a larger level. This is not good for anybody. Like
Yeah.
it's that's why you want to be your own unique, genuine self, attracting those folks that understand and get that and can elevate that.
Yeah, yeah, that's legit. I personally resonate with that just because of an experience that I had a couple of weeks ago where I messed up. Like I presented a plan. Um, I presented a plan in a way that would have worked for something lower tier to something that was way higher tier. But the mentor that I was working with, the person that I was working with, she told me the truth about how unacceptable it was, but because of the rapport, because of the goodwill that had been built previously, she walked me through what it looks like to do it properly so that next time I could do it by myself instead of her having to like, come behind me and edit it. Like, yeah. So I definitely personally resonate with that.
And it wasn't the end of the world when that happened. Probably
Yeah.
felt like the end of the world earlier, like when you were going about that, because it's like the first time you're new to this, especially when you've been hearing nothing but like how great you are, and you come across somebody
Yeah.
like on a larger level, and they're like, "Ah, it's not that great." That can be defeating.
It hurt.
But you didn't die.
I
Like no one
didn't.
died. Yeah,
I
it's
didn't. I
like you
definitely
actually have another opportunity to refine.
Yeah, yeah, and that's legit. And actually, that's a really good point because sometimes there's so many people who are so excellent, right? And so used to showing up and doing very well the first time that by the time they hit the point of refinement where it's like, hey, you know what, this isn't really good enough, and now you have an opportunity to grow. It's like they're afraid of the opportunity to grow because it doesn't look like anything that they've ever had to really deal with before because of whatever it is, right? Whether it's like a hypervigilance towards mistakes or just like a natural ability to take in information and not really have to learn things. Like there's the joke where it's like, what happened to the kids who were in the smart classes in high school? We all have anxiety, and it's like kind of yeah, right? Because at those times, the idea of learning things was easy. It came so easily. And even further into careers, it came so easily. But when it time came to elevate and really hit those roadblocks and learn what to do when you hit a roadblock, it was like it was so jarring that you couldn't even really make the transition in your mind to take in the information and not be like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. What am I going to do?
Yeah. I mean, that's when you just change that language and just start to rework. Yes, and man, you just dealing with an ego hit. Like you're in uncharted territory, but that means that you have reached a new land. So do you turn away or do you go discover it a little
Yeah,
more? Like did that fear that presented itself? It's just because you're uncomfortable. You're but everything you want is on the other side of it. Like this is just
yeah,
another thing to triumph and it adds more refinement and you're going to be better because of it. You will be worse if you don't tackle it. You will
yeah,
regret, you will regress, you will stumble, you will feel like you can't do anything else, you will slow down versus like, nah man, charge it head on and get it right because you actually have unlimited chances. That person, whether they want to deal with you again or not, there's a billion other people like them.
mm,
And at the end of the day, you only need but so many like people buying in to kind of get you where you need to be. That's not like a
mm,
customer buying in. That's like I mean like support. And then eventually those people attract the folks that will be the customers. And then the customers start to attract more customers. Like at the end of the day, every large business got there because of some sort of like referral system, word of mouth, but it's just because of the constant sharing of benefit. And so you're
yeah,
just trying to get to the point where you can serve at a high level. You can provide extreme amounts of benefit. And that doesn't happen if you don't show up.
yeah. Keep showing up. I love it. I love it. Can you give me an example of a time that you showed up that really kind of changed things for you?
Yeah, when I first moved out the state, um, and kind of just like in this in this bubble of things aren't happening. And then I finally gathered the courage to be like, well, I know for a fact that this is valued differently in other places. I just haven't gone yet because my family's here. I can't take the whole family. Going to have to go by myself. But it's kind of important to do this because if I do it, then I feel like other people will do it as well. People will feel encouraged to get up and go. So
Yeah.
let me just go do this. And it was hard because I got a job opportunity at an ad agency, first time working in anything corporate like that, small little agency, boutique agency, but it was an agency that had large scale clients I got the letter, the offer letter, booked the ticket, pandemic hit. So not only am I out here
Oh, wild.
alone, I'm like alone because we all isolated as well in a whole new place, different weather. I got asthma. That's the first time I came across like cedar fever. It's like all these different things just got to deal with by myself while also the world shut down and they didn't really have assignments for me. And so I was just like, well, here's your time to like kind of like show what you can do. And I just like ran around the city, ran around Austin, Texas, and just like built like a TV show for like all the the little restaurants and things that were closed to kind of create this hype. Again, adding benefit, like over adding
Yeah.
value. Nobody asked for that. It was like, yo, let me serve the people in this downtime and use that as an opportunity to create more opportunity. And so I would say that was probably like the biggest because that's what started to create a chain reaction of more and more things presenting themselves. I feel like a lot of people were waiting to see how serious I was. And that was like the first step in proving how serious I was because it's like the opportunity isn't here. I need to go to where the opportunity is. And because I know I'm going to be better because of it. It is going to be hard. And people are going to say, don't do it while you're leaving. People are going to be sad. People are going to be angry. People are going to talk crap. They're going to say it's not going to work. They don't understand it. But I do. like there's a higher power speaking to me, telling me to do this. No one else was on that. What they say, like your calling was not a group chat.
A conference
Everybody else was
call.
not on the call. It was not a conference call. Everyone else was not on the call. And so I have to go do this because something is telling me to do it, and I feel like there's great gain on the other side of it that doesn't even just benefit me. That I mean, I don't just benefit from. Like this is going to be the beginning of others being able to kind of like tap into this. And so, yeah, man, I stood on business and I went.
That was so aggressive. I stood on fifth.
I still don't even know what that means. Sounds cool. I feel like I used it in the right context.
You did. You did. It means pretty much what you just said. I made a decision
Okay.
and I went went forward in my, I can't with you right now. So I could literally talk to you forever, which is probably why I married
What's
you.
gonna happen? Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'll see you later. You're right over there, frankly. Um, yeah. So where can we find you online? So obviously you're an amazing person and I think you're pretty cool. Um, where can people find you online if they are looking for you? Any like fun projects you're working on that people need to be abreast of? Like, where do we find you online? Classic Reinvention.
Yeah, you can find me on socials at Classic LLC, but that's no A, no I. I'm real. CLSSC LLC on social media. And then you can tap into and in my personal website, tioutsider.com, to see some of the back work for my own show, The Inquisitive Outsider. And you can also check out two companies I'm currently working with. So fractional.com and forecaster.co. Sorry, fractional.app and forecaster.co. Fractional is a group ownership platform for investing into real estate. And Forecaster is a financial modeling company. So again, like just trying to find those different things that kind of speak to one another, and help me out with like getting into these different spaces. Like I love the idea of a financial model and the concept of like doing business better. And I love anything that creates fractional ownership because man, there's a lot of opportunities out here that we can't take advantage of because we think that it's just up to us and our resources. But if we can pull it
Yeah.
together and create those opportunities to create group economics, then we can accomplish more. We can get after wealth faster. So that's why Fractional is like the head honcho in my stable right now. Loving everything to death. So yeah, you can check me out in those areas. You can see a lot of my content beginning to flow through their channels. And then because of outsider stuff is coming soon. New things.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Thank you. Thank you for this random conversation. I know this definitely wasn't what we'd planned for the evening. We are again still in the office, and this was not the plan at all. But it is a pleasure to be able to talk to you about these things and be able to share the information that you bring to the table because your perspective is it's um, it's amazing. I think it's really cool because it's so I don't want to say it's subversive, but it's not
What does that mean?
necessarily the perspective that means not really the main idea that people go with. So there's the verse and then there's the subverse. Like it's something else that people are doing, and it kind of like almost undermines the ideas that are normal,
Like contrarian?
like contrarian. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean they kind of yeah, a little bit. Anyway, yeah. I think your perspective is always one that's necessary because there's been like a lot of I always talk about going from hustling to wholeness, and I think you definitely embody that because there was a serious period of hustle. There was a serious period of hustle. Um, and not necessarily in the ways that we're often told to go about it. And then the kind of the peaks you've hit. And they are kind of the peaks so far have been so interesting to even like watch the interactions you have with the people who are around you. And they're like, how did you get here? Right. And I'm definitely encouraged by what you do because the possibilities truly are endless. Um, and
Yeah, you just
you're
gotta
also
show up.
working, yeah, like for real, like you have to show up. And then you're also like even the work that you're doing, you're working specifically in places where you can say to other people like, hey, if you want to invest in real estate, there are ways to do it with a syndicate. Like you can do it with a group. Hey, if you're trying to operate your business properly, you need a financial model, and they partner with some other well-known companies too that help you to make sure that your financials are in order. So as you're growing your business, you can be in the right place because as you're seeking more funding, as you're doing partnerships, as your finances are actually like extremely important. Um, so I think I'm affirming you. I think that's really what I'm getting at. I like you. Uh, so thank you again for being here and for being the open book that you are. I'm grateful.
Thank you. Thank you for randomly having me. I will show up randomly anywhere you need me.
Well, I appreciate it very much. I'm going to put you backstage, but don't go anywhere, okay?
Okay.
All right, baby. Okay, so that was my partner in crime, Classic Reinvention. So, like you said, find him online at CLSSC on every platform, pretty much, theinquisitiveoutsider.com. You can find him with Fractional, and you can find him with, is Fractional and what's the other one again?
Forecaster.
Forecaster. Thank you. Bye. The fractional and forecaster. I was going to say another F name that was somebody else entirely that we were talking about earlier. Can't do that. Got to stay on brand. So again, my name is Olivia Thomas, the founder of Wintentional Development Co. and the Busy Girls Brunch, helping you go from hustling to wholeness through brand strategy and business strategy. I'm excited that you're here. I can't wait to see you next week. Thank you so much for being here this week. Have a great week. Stay intentional, keep flourishing. Oh, and happy Thanksgiving. I'm so grateful. So grateful for you. Thank you for being here.